Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Golf Rules Questions podcast. My name is Roscoe, your co-host, and sitting virtually alongside, opposite, Blakey, the star of the Golf Rules Questions, the YouTube sensation. It's growing very well, mate. How are you?
Yeah, going really well, Roscoe. So what are we up to? Episode 6, are we? So, it's we're getting really good traction. Everyone's enjoying it. Everyone who's listened to it has told me that they've enjoyed it. So, let's just keep going with it.
Right, well, I'm enjoying learning about all of the things about Golf Rules Questions. I'm enjoying seeing the people subscribing to your YouTube channel, and that's why I said YouTube sensation. It's certainly growing, and you've got a lot of videos up there that you've put up there that are A, answering a lot of questions, but B, a lot of people are looking at, which is great. So perfect for your Golf Rules Questions knowledge development is to go to the YouTube site of Golf Rules Questions. Mate, we've got an episode here which we've got a few listeners' questions. We've got another contributor to the background bingo, and a few little situations that we'll talk about, which a little bit out of the usual, which I think are going to answer a few questions for a lot of people out there who come up with these scenarios. Everyday golfers like you and I, we're not golfing at the moment, as everyone knows. We won't go back over that, but everyday golfers like you and I love learning about Golf Rules Questions. So let's get straight into it. So, mate, the Caddie. We talked about caddies in recent episodes, and they can be a great contributor to Golf Rules Questions content as it's become apparent. We've got this scenario with that you're going to talk us through about a caddy and an umbrella.
Yeah,
What happened there, mate?
We mentioned Caddie last week that fell over or hurt himself, so he had to stop caddying for the player. And then it actually happened on the same weekend, and we just missed it in the last episode. But a caddy on the European Tour actually tried to shelter their player with an umbrella, which is fine. We see that on TV all the time. But what's not fine is the player or the caddy did it while the player was making a stroke. So if you shelter, even using an umbrella, a player from making a stroke or whilst making a stroke with an umbrella, you're basically a breach of 10.2b subsection 5. You're protecting the player from the elements such as wind, water, sunlight, could be. So it's a general penalty, as that was a stroke play event. That was a 2-shot penalty, quite costly. And just not necessary. It was terrible conditions over that sort of weekend, but no one wants to be stuck with a 2-shot penalty for such a innocent penalty, I guess.
You see that happening a little bit. So let's talk about what you're allowed to do, what is permissible, because a lot of our golfers and listeners, will be playing events with caddies, and some whatever. What you're allowed to do is, and correct me if I'm wrong, as you will, you're allowed to cover. Let's take the example of a line of a putt. So you're allowed to stand there while your player is assessing the line of the putt and cover him. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And therefore, you might be protecting the water from going on the line of the putt. So if that's a byproduct of where you're standing with the umbrella and you're protecting the player and you're doing that sort of thing as well. But as soon as he steps in to address the ball and make the stroke, you move the umbrella away. Simple, yeah?
Yeah, exactly right. And, you might find that the caddy doesn't have the umbrella. The player is walking around with the umbrella around their line, assessing their putt, and then just before they and not only to keep themselves dry, but sort of mainly keep the grip dry. Like, I don't know about you, how you've probably played in rain a lot since you're from Scotland, but whenever I play in rain, the grip is paramount. So I actually just, shove it under my jumper or my jacket, trying to keep that grip dry, because you don't want to be letting go of the club in the middle of a stroke. I've actually done that. I found my 9-iron. It was a good shot too. I think I made birdie, but I almost threw it. Well, I did throw it, but I almost threw it into a penalty area. it was in a bush and I had to sort of get my hands in it. But, you know, the main thing there is you want to try and shelter or cover the grip. And so the player can hold the umbrella, it can try and cover, keep himself dry or whatever. But as soon as they're making that stroke, and I actually posted this on Instagram because it has happened before, funnily enough, on the same, you know, European tour, so about 15 years ago. So it has happened before, and unfortunately it happened again 2 weeks ago.
Can you name the player? Do you remember who the player was?
The one that was 2 weeks ago was Toby Tree.
I wonder why Toby Tree would not be cognizant of that, what I think is quite a elementary rule.
You know, if you're over the ball, it was probably, I don't know if it was a putt, but it probably was. That's most likely what it was. If it was over a putt, you know, you're looking down at the ball, you're assuming that your caddy has moved out of the way, done his job or her job, and got themselves out of the way, because they should know that that's not permitted. And you're looking down the ball and you're making the putt, you know. So if he made the putt and then looked up and looked at his caddy going, what are you still doing there? Then that's pretty unfortunate for the player.
Caddies. Maybe we need to have the caddy rules questions podcast for the benefit of the caddies.
I reckon we should definitely do an episode just on caddies and caddying. So, because there's a ton of stuff that people need to know or want to know about that kind of thing. Yeah, in club golf we hardly ever have caddies, but when we do, or when we see it on the professional tour, you know, we want to know the ins and outs to caddying.
Well, I'm going to put a mark in the ground. I will find us a caddy. The caddies on a tour to come on and talk us about their understanding of the rules and how it affects them in their job. So let's do that next time. Well, not next time, but let's put that a mark in the ground for doing that in the future.
Yeah, we'll do that one, definitely.
Now, we've been asking all of you listening and for some questions, and feel free to engage with us at any time that you like. And we would appreciate it, and we do appreciate it. And we had a question here from one of the listeners, and we'll play that in a second. And it's to do with ball in bunker and ground in club. And let's just have a listen to the question, and then we can take it up from there. And just thank you for the question, Ahmed. Let me just cue that up.
Hi there. My question is about placing the club during bunker shots. Can you touch the sand or not? And if you cannot, which is usually the case, why are we allowed to hit the ground or make a practice swing during normal grass shots, green shots, fairway shots? Why is that the case with only the bunker shots? Thank you.
Ahmed, thank you for your question. And, you know, with that, we don't know Ahmed and we don't know his background as a golfer, but clearly I think, you know, we can deduce from the nature of his question that he's a new golfer. And, you know, he's still navigating his way around the ins and outs of golf. And, you know, we appreciate you for the question and respect that you're a new golfer. And that's why we're here. We're here to help all golfers with their rules knowledge. So he's asked a couple of different parts of the rules related items in that question, you know, about grounding the club in the bunker. And then he's moved into why are you allowed to do it in other parts of the playing ground. So, Blakey, over to you. Let's dissect that from Ahmed and help Ahmed understand what the situation that he's got in his mind and how that plays out for him.
Yeah, well, this one's an interesting one. It's a lot about the principles of the game of golf, and there's certain areas that you can do certain things. So, you know, you've got your 5 areas of the course, and there's certain areas where you can do certain things. The general area and penalty area, putting green, you can all ground your club directly behind or in front of the ball. But in the bunker, there's about 5 restrictions, things that you can't do in the bunker. And deliberately testing with a hand or a club is not permitted. Grounding your club immediately behind or right in front of the ball is not permitted. grounding a club in a practice swing and grounding a club in the backswing for a stroke that is made is also not permitted. Why aren't they permitted? That's basically the penalty for hitting the ball in there. There's no stroke penalty for hitting your ball into a bunker, but there's this idea of a penalty that you're not able to have exactly what you're not able to ground your club. You're not able to maybe get as comfortable as you'd like as you would in other areas. So it's more if you don't like, and a lot of people don't like bunkers, if you don't like bunkers, stay out of them because there are these restrictions on what you can and can't do in a bunker. For those people that actually, because there are a lot of people, we see them on the tour, there are a lot of people that are really good out of bunkers and probably better out of bunkers than they are out of long grass, and they'd actually prefer to hit their ball in a bunker. So, going to your local pro, getting some lessons about bunker play and just doing some practice are all good actions to overcome, that sort of uncomfortableness in a bunker. But back to Ahmed's main question is, why is this different? It just is the way it is as a intangible penalty, basically. So, that's why you can't ground your club. They have relaxed the rules from previous years. It used to be that you couldn't ground your club at all. So if you just walked in there and you dragged your club behind you, you're going to get the 2-stroke penalty. As there is with all rules of golf, there's always exceptions, and there were exceptions back then, and there are exceptions now. But they've really defined specific areas where you can and can't ground your club. And as I said, it's more of an intangible penalty for that.
And the other thing that changed recently was the use of the rake in the bunker. Previously along the lines of, not being able to touch your club even accidentally in the bunker, the rake was not permitted to be used, before you made the stroke. And at least now, for speed of play, you can rake your footsteps if you're entering at an entry point, and then, obvious quick exit is another point. As you come in, you can pre-rake those, foot marks, but obviously you can't rake and test the ground around your ball. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that one came in, I'd say 2016, 2014. It's all about, or 2012. It's all about caring for the course. Good point there, Ross. So it was all about caring for the course. If you had a really big bunker and the rake is over that side, and you know that you're going to exit out onto the right side and walk up towards the green. So you grab the rake from the left side and you rake your footprints on the way to your ball. It's caring for the course, and as long as you aren't considered, to be testing it, you are permitted to be doing that. And that is before you hit a stroke as well in the bunker. So yeah, they've sort of relaxed those some of those restrictions around what you can and can't do in a bunker.
So we've helped Ahmed understand a little bit of the nuances around the bunker. The other part of his question was on the playing ground, and we've answered that a little bit, but there's probably going to be a few other things that are going to pop up into Ahmed's field of vision as he continues, and hopefully for a long time, his journey as a golfer. And when he is on the fairway, for example. Now, we know that the original rules of golf written by Mr. Rattray and his collective at Leith Links in Edinburgh in 1744, the premise was playing the ball as it lies, as it is today. But there are times when you can prefer your ball, a thing called preferred lies, different situations. Now, Ahmed might come across that at some stage. So what are the scenarios when you are allowed to move your ball on the fairway, on the short grass?
So if your ball is, if the local rule E3 is in play by the committee, adopted by the committee. And you actually see this quite a lot on the professional tours. They have preferred lies in any time it almost looks like it's any time it rains, there's a bit of mud and the players want preferred lies. So yeah, that happens quite a lot, but that has to be a local rule that's been adopted. Other sort of situations where you may be taking free relief from things in the things in the fairway or even the rough, such as an embedded ball. An embedded ball, if it's in the rough or the fairway, you get the spot directly behind the ball and a club length within from that spot as your relief area in which to drop from knee height. That's just a rule of golf, that embedded ball. And funnily enough, I'm actually writing a rules newsletter on embedded ball and probably going to get that out this week, Roscoe. So any other situations I can think of where you get sort of free relief? I mean, if you have abnormal interference with an abnormal course condition, and you might be able to get free relief there. Or it's a May situation, so you can either play as it lies, or you can take a drop, such as easy ones like a sprinkler head. That's probably the easiest one that they're on most golf courses that have irrigation systems.
And rules match committees and rules committees or the golf club can introduce preferred lies whenever they want. So if they have a fairway that might be suffering from some rectification works, but it's in play, but it's not up to the level of playing surface of the rest of the course, they can make that fairway preferred lies, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. They can specify certain fairways that are that the local rule is in play for. They can specify you could be playing preferred lie, you could be playing tee up. They specify the distance, so it could be a handspan, could be a club length, that kind of thing. It could just be some dead grass in the fairway or an over sanded patch or something like that. The committee have a lot of power to provide either relief conditions or relief for the players, or making areas not out of bounds, making areas off limits, or no play zones is what they're termed. So making them no play zones for players. You're either, you're writing a local rule to either look after the players, which a lot of committees will do more than probably what they need to, or to make something off limits to keep players away from that area.
As a regular club golfer, my advice, if you do play at a course that has a preferred lie condition in place and has it for a number of weeks, just make sure you check before you go out and play, because they do change. And the worst thing you can do is get out there where the previous week you were playing preferred lies, it's been changed, you haven't checked. You just buy, 3 weeks worth of habit, move your ball, and it's not preferred lies anymore. You want to avoid those situations. So it's up to you to check. It's your responsibility. And, I wouldn't be probably the only one that's maybe made a phone call back to the pro shop on the second hole going, are we still playing preferred lies out there this week, boys? So, check that. So,
that's actually, Roscoe, that's actually happened on the professional tours a lot. We'll have, if it's raining on a Wednesday night, Thursday morning, have preferred lies for maybe Thursday, Friday. Guy goes out there on Saturday morning, we've taken preferred lies away. I think we had in a tournament last year, and the guy had been we'd taken it away, and the guy had been preferring his lie 5 holes in a row. So there you go. That's 5 times 2 wrong place, not a serious breach. It was at least 10 shots added onto his score.
Sounds pretty serious for not a serious breach. Well, there we go. We sort of went, Ahmed, we hope we've answered that question and given you a little bit more information about your world as a golfer in the bunker and on the fairways. Very good. Now, next question. Do we have another question?
Yeah, I think we've got a quick little question because we're almost up to time, but we've got a quick little question to go from, I believe it's from Big P.
I'd be interested to know if Big P is listening, and he will be listening because he's actually answered a couple of questions. We might get to the second question that he's asked in a subsequent episode. Big P, firstly, thank you very much. Really do appreciate your input. Would like some more information other than Big P. I feel a bit funny calling you Big P, but I sort of like it as well in the same respect. Big P from Clubland. No, I think you should keep Big P from Clubland. Let's just have Big P from Clubland for forever and a day. Very good. Let's have a listen to Big P's question here.
Hi, Blakey. Big P from Clubland here. Love your stuff. First time caller, long time listener and follower on the gram. Thank you very much for your stuff that you put out. Blakey, I've grown up with the notion that if you are taking a drop for a penalty, you get 2 club lengths. And if you're taking a drop for no penalty, i.e. relief from, say, a cart path, you only get 1 club length. Is that a pretty fair rule of thumb to apply across the board? When wouldn't that apply? Look forward to hearing your response. And again, thank you very much for all your efforts with educating us on the rules. Bye.
Clearly a massive fan of yours there, Blakey, is Big P from Clubland. Good question. I think, on the surface of it, what Big P suggests there is a fairly solid rule of thumb, but there's obviously some situations and scenarios that you want to avoid creating an imbroglio by understanding when you can't take 2 club lengths or 1 club length. So let's cover off some of those situations when 2 club lengths, 1 club lengths.
Okay, the easiest way to say that, and thank you very much for the question, Big P. The easiest way to first look at this is when taking a free relief, such as under Rule 16.1 for what we talked about before, sprinkler heads, or say an embedded ball, from your reference point, which say embedded ball is the spot directly behind where your ball is at rest. For your Rule 16.1, your abnormal course conditions, your temporary waters, your GURs, your immovable obstructions, it's your nearest point of complete relief. And from that point, you get 1 club length. So basically, for free relief, it's always going to be 1 club length. Now, sometimes that 1 club length isn't actually there. Like, you don't actually have a 1 club length area in which to drop. What I mean by that is if you've worked out your nearest point of complete relief from a cart path and it's towards a penalty area and you've got this absolute slither in which to drop, you could even just have like a hand, like the size of a hand in which to drop, or the size of a basketball. I don't know. So it doesn't mean you're always entitled to the 1 club length, but under those rules, it's just going to be the 1 club length for the free relief. That is correct. Now, for an unplayable, you've got your 3 options. One's to go back to your last place or your previous stroke made. If that was in the teeing ground or teeing area, then it doesn't matter about club length at all. If it's back on a line, it's 1 club length from your reference point back on a line. So there you go. That's not your 2 club lengths. That is the default that everyone thinks about. The default for your 2 club lengths is where the reference point is the ball. So I think I posted one, on YouTube or whatever, and the ball stuck up a tree. So you take the spot directly below. If you want to drop down there, you take the spot directly below where the ball was at rest, and then drop within 2 club lengths. So there's your 2 club length penalty relief. Okay, and that's called lateral relief. But if you're going back on a line, so the ball's up the tree and you're going back on a line from the flag, from a reference point on that line, you have 1 club length. Okay, so that's your unplayable. Another penalty relief situation would be from a penalty area. You've hit your ball into the penalty area. You've estimated where the ball's crossed. From that cross, if it's a red penalty area, you've got 2 club lengths. But if you're going back on a line from where it's last crossed to the flag, that back on the line, choosing a point on the back of the line, you've only got the one club length. And then again, if your previous stroke made was in the teeing area, it's just teeing area. If your previous stroke made was in the fairway or the rough, then you've got one club length from your previous stroke where your previous stroke was made. So although the one club length, two club lengths, one club free, two club length penalty, the two club lengths penalty is definitely, it's just sometimes when you take a penalty drop, you might not have two club lengths because you're going to your previous stroke made or back on a line. But for the free drop, it's basically going to always be one club length. Does that, do you think that answers Big P's question?
Yeah, I think it does. It does. I want to raise a couple of points, which I think might add some value to the listeners, especially, and this is based on playing with a whole variety of golfers and maybe some of the newer guys that I play with. One of the rules that's less understood, when taking a penalty is the on the line between the pin, your ball, and then that line directly behind you, as you refer to there. So, in your description of what you said there about being able to get one club length and not two club lengths because it is a penalty, it's obviously, for me, obviously it's suggesting that, you're getting the benefit of that distance that you can go back to. But the line doesn't necessarily always mean it's the best line. So people can sometimes think, and they don't know where the line is, that they don't fathom the fact that it can take you onto the next fairway. It can take you away from where you should be playing, but and you can go back as far as you want. So that's one that I think a lot of the newer golfers don't understand. You draw the line between where the flag is, where your ball is, and just continue that on that line, and you can take that drop as far back as you want, and then you get your one club length, not two. So you don't get the advantage of going two club lengths, which might improve your line over a tree or whatever. You just get the one club length from there. But a lot of people don't understand that part of the rule of taking a penalty unplayable relief, when you're in a tree or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good point. And to be honest, if you are a new golfer, going back on a line and trying to then hit over a 40-foot or 80-foot tree might not be the best decision. So going back to your previous stroke made might be your best case, or just dropping within that two club lengths if it's a penalty relief, lateral relief. But in saying that, there's dangers. You should be cautious about doing that as well, because if you drop your ball under an unplayable and a lateral relief, and then it rolls back into an unplayable situation inside that two club length relief area, or it's that semicircle, that's bad luck. It's in play, and if you want to get out again, you either try and hit it or you take an unplayable. So that you got to think about those kind of situations before you actually.
Sort of leads on to another part that I want to discuss, and because you're right, taking relief isn't always your best. It doesn't guarantee you, a clear shot. It's not your best relief; it's relief in the nearest point. There are scenarios, and one sticks to mind for me playing at Mornington. There's a lot of scenarios happen at Mornington, but there's a path on the side of the 17th, 18th tee, and it's quite often from the 17th. You can end up on that path, and it's an example of where you can actually the one club length free relief off a path, because they offer relief from the stone path there, can actually advantage you. Now, this scenario, and you can tell me what's happened. The ball is on the path, then it's on the right-hand side of the path. So therefore, as the ball sits, marginally closer to the right-hand side rough. But there is a beautiful mown teeing ground to the left-hand side of the path. Now, why in that situation, why would you be able to, with one club nearest point of relief, why would you be able to put it onto the teeing ground and not have to take it to the rough?
If it's your nearest point of complete relief, you work it from there. It depends if you're a left-hander or a right-hander.
Right. So how would you measure the nearest point of relief? That's my point. So
what are you hitting?
Oh, you're hitting an 8-iron.
Okay, so you're hitting an 8-iron. So you grab the 8-iron out.
Yep.
You go to the point where, and now it's the ball. It's the point where the ball is. You go where the point where the ball is, and take your normal stance for an 8-iron, and maybe put a tee right where your club head is. Do that on the right side, do that on the left side, and whichever's closest to the ball, whichever tee is closest to the ball, that is your nearest point of complete relief. Now, you've got to take complete relief, so you can't just move it just off the path, so you're still standing on the path.
Correct.
Your stance has got to be off the path as well, and then your swing, so your club head's not going to hit the path. It depends if you're left-handed or right-handed. It'll depend on what club you're going to use, and it's for a normal shot, so it's not trying to make shift some kind of shot, and you can't be right-handed and turn into a left-hand golfer just to get that free relief on your right-hand side.
And I appreciate for those listening, we're talking about a visual thing and an auditory sort of medium here, but my point is that one time I nearly ran foul of my playing partner because I took relief on the teeing ground as opposed to over what would have been under a tree, and I had to go to lengths to demonstrate that the nearest point was actually on the teeing ground by doing exactly as you decided. I took my stance in the rough, put my club down where the ball would otherwise be played from, and put a tee peg in there, and clearly the distance from that point was much further than the distance from the point of the ball on the right-hand side of the path, moving to a left-hand position on the teeing ground, because the nearest point where you can drop the ball was only has to be like 10 mils onto the tee.
Yep. Yeah, well, the teeing area, when the teeing area is not in play, and when we say teeing area, it's a specific area. It's tee markers and 2 club lengths in depth. But when you and I say teeing ground, we're talking about the whole
I was just talking
ground.
About the
yeah, exactly. We're talking, when we say teeing ground, it's the old term, but we're using it like a tee box sort of situation. So that's where all the tee markers could be, at one point in time.
Forget what I said, teeing ground. It was just a better spot.
But
it was a better spot. But in their mind, they thought, no, your ball's on that side of the path, so that's the nearest point. And I had to demonstrate by pulling out the measuring tape almost that the nearest point was in this better spot here, and I was entitled to take relief there. Well,
if this is an easy one to talking about visual, and can be quite hard to imagine, but this is easy to understand. If you've got a path and the ball's right, bang, right, a smack bang in the middle of the path, then a right-handed's nearest point of complete relief will be on the left-hand side, and a left-handed golfer's nearest point of complete relief will be on the right-hand side, barring any other kind of situation on the left-hand, right-hand side. So it's just got a path. Say the path went up the middle of the fairway. If the ball's smack bang in the middle, a right-handed per player's nearest point of complete relief will be on the left, and the left-handed player's nearest point of complete relief will be on the right. So, you work out your nearest point of complete relief, and that's probably another episode all in itself.
Yeah. I haven't done anything wrong there, have I?
I don't think so. If you've worked it out and your nearest point of complete relief.
It was only marginally on the right-hand side of the path.
Yeah.
The distance between that point there and where I put my tee was that far. And then when I took my stance and then marked for the ball and put my tee there, it was another, it was like 20, 30 centimetres further in distance.
Well, there's only ever one nearest point of complete relief. And I say only one, knowing tongue-in-cheek that there could be 2 that are exactly the same distance, which I've had before. But basically, there's if it's a metre to your that's the nearest point of complete relief, and there's another one that's a metre at 1.2 metres, then it's the one that's a metre, and it has to be the nearest, not the nicest. So you work it out. If the golfer works it out, it's pretty easy to see from there visually.
Well, we can talk more about that, but that was just another example of where one club length fits into 2 club lengths, 1 club length. So, Big P, thank you for your question.
Yeah, went on a little bit longer than I thought. So, Big P, geez, asking the tough ones.
No business questions at the moment, but if anyone wants to, tip in with some prizes, we can send prizes out to Big P and Ahmed, but no prizes, but just much appreciation. Just back to the tour, Collin Morikawa, he was involved in a scenario, a situation, maybe not quite an imbroglio, but take us through what happened there.
Yeah, and I just touched on embedded ball before, and as I said, I'm going to publish a rules newsletter this week about embedded ball. So jump on there and watch it on YouTube. He just wanted to know if his ball was embedded. We had an embedded ball on the tour that was filmed a couple of weeks ago with Billy Horschel. This one was in the fairway, and the referee, after checking it for 20 or 30 seconds, said, yep, that's embedded slightly. So the player got free relief, and he was a bit cautious because he replaced it once, but then it sort of still looked like it moved. So the referee said, yeah, okay, pick it up again. We'll try and replace it again, because he's already dropped it and re-dropped it. And then he said, can I wait? Can I go and do my pre-shot routine? And because I just really don't want this ball to be, to flicker off down the fairway and have like a 40-meter pitch shot rather than a 10-meter pitch shot. So it was actually quite interesting what he did there. Go and watch it on YouTube. Plenty of thousands of others have watched it. But yeah, no, that was a really simple rule, and just showing what embedded. It's kind of broken the surface, so pretty easy to win that one.
If people want to get the Golf Rules Questions newsletter, where do they go to get that?
Yeah, just go to my website and subscribe there, sign up to that, or just flick us your email, golfrules.questions@gmail.com. Just tell me that you want me to send the newsletter, or even just leave your email address in the comments on YouTube, and I'll definitely send the newsletter out to you.
Beautiful. Now, Blakey, I think that covers pretty much most of the rules scenarios that we were going to talk about in this episode, but we do have a little bit of housekeeping. As you know, that we've coined the phrase backyard. I wish it was my backyard.
I wish it was too.
Background. Sorry, I covered that pretty well. Background bingo. Just for those that are watching the Zoom footage that you pump onto your YouTube channel. We've got a couple of backgrounds here this week, new ones that we would encourage you to have a look at. Mine's a little bit obscure, so the only hint that I will give, it's in the same part of the world as the previous backgrounds. That's as much as I'm going to tell you. Hopefully you can work it out. If you've listened to me over at the My Love of Golf podcast, you probably know by knowing what I do and where I go. So less obvious. Very obvious is your one, Blakey, but it's good work on getting a question up there. Not a question, a picture up there. Nice of you to get that up there. Tell us where they are now, and congratulations to David Grieve. And once again, much appreciation for your contribution and looking at the YouTube footage of 2 guys sitting here talking about golf rules. Appreciate that. David Grieve got both of last episode's backgrounds correct. Mine was obviously North Berwick in Scotland. Love that place. Drop me there. Play the rest of my golf for the rest of my days. North Berwick is the place to go. I love it. It's sort of like the St Andrews of the other side of the water, where the course starts and finishes in the town. Beautiful place. If you've been there, you're very lucky, and as am I, very lucky to have played there. Your background was
Wentworth.
I thought David did very well. It was obviously the BMW. It was the BMW, the Wentworth there?
Yeah, I was actually refereeing there almost this time last year. So it was an amazing tournament, and John Rahm ended up winning that one. Pretty big tournament, and that was just I took that photo just while I was sitting there refereeing on the halfway down the 18th, which is a very tricky par 5. If you hit a good drive, it's the second shot's not too hard, although they have that water going. Well, actually, that's a stupid thing to say. It's very hard. But, if you can get your drive down there long enough, you can sort of just flick in a 7 or 8 iron. But it was the drive I found off the tee that a lot of the players were just overcutting the corner and putting it in the the bushes there. So it was actually a really tricky par 5. Great course, very hilly, and a tremendous facility there. So well done to David Grieve on getting that. And then this one that I've got, a little bit closer to home is all I'm going to say. I haven't been there, but a little bit closer to home.
Very good. Well, thanks for participating, David, and thank you for you listening out there that you want to jump across and have a look at the backgrounds. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for everything this week, Blakey. You've been a wealth of knowledge again. And listeners, keep the questions coming in. We do appreciate them, and it's giving us a lot of reason to keep going and keep talking. Blakey, unless there's anything else from yourself there, I think we might sign off on this episode. Where are we at? This is episode 6?
There's number 6, and number 7 will be just around the corner.
Beautiful. Well, once again, thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time on the Golf Rules Questions podcast.
See you guys.